I don't know what I would do without Google. I've become such a lazy speller because of spell check. This digital age, and it does scare me that AI will eventually just speak for me one day. It will. But how do you deal with those situations when these strengths that we once had are just fading away? And it's like, where is everything going and growing? And how can I participate in an age where everything is just handed to us? And if we don't get it handed to us, then sometimes we can act like a 2-year-old throwing a king-size fit. And that's usually when my dad would give me more than just a look. Hey, it's Arrow. This is The Daily Mess, a chronological walk through an everyday world. I am a daily writer, a silent wolf. I sit back and just watch life. I study it. I listen to it. I try to replenish it while bringing other things forward with it. This is The Daily Mess. The journey to make sense of. The journey to make sense of. Who, what, where, why, and how. My father used to tell me all the time, you don't make sense. Although I knew exactly what I was talking about, he found it to be very difficult to pull up a chair and just listen to my side of the story. Making sense to others requires a connection and a real conversation. One of my coworkers doesn't know how to make sense of the way that I do business. He says, you do it wrong. So what does he do? He puts his hands on that manager's cap and he starts talking to me in that vocal tone, like a boss. And man, if that doesn't just get underneath my skin so quickly when somebody tosses out their authority like that. Because it's not about you becoming a boss to tell me how I should be thinking. Making sense of my own self is very difficult. We each of us have to deal with that on a daily basis. But how do we make sense to others? It's not about playing out a role. That's not the answer. It's about being open and authentic as to why the origin of the subject was invited to the conversation. When something doesn't make sense, break out the gift of talk and let's work it out when we don't make sense to others. I don't want to have to live out those days with my father again. You don't make sense. I understand where I'm coming from because I'm going to break down everything that I do say before I release it for someone else to listen to. Learning how to make sense. It doesn't mean you have to be right. It doesn't mean that everything that you do is wrong. It's trying to get others to hear your side of the experience. I daily write. I also keep that defrag journal. When I need to ask questions, I go there, I do my studying, I break it down, and I make sense to myself first. Then it becomes part of the conversation. But the trigger is when you've got something that you've been working on and you share it with others who really don't even have the time to listen to you, they don't want to make sense of your sense because they're on their own path. And are you willing to listen to them? Back and forth, we've got to become better listeners and better communicators. I'm Arrow, and that's The Daily Mess.